Just when we think that Donald Trump can't wriggle his way out of this one, he yet again does.
Watch the rain as it's falling down.
Greetings, lovely people, and welcome back to hell. Honestly, it has been a while. I have not spoke about really anything since Biden dropped out, and there's been a lot to talk about, but I feel like at this point, it's been a good few days since the US elections, and we very definitively know the outcome. If you somehow have been staying away from all this, you should know that Donald Trump won the US election for 2024, beating, Kamala Harris 312 to 226. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I properly understand the US electoral system. I know that there's, in a lot of ways, two different systems at play. There's the popular vote, and then there's the electoral college. I'm not going to get into that. That is not my expertise by any means. I'm not going to pretend. But, yeah, whichever party wins needs to have at least 270 of the college votes, and as I say, Trump had 312, way over the required number. And yeah, this wasn't surprising to many people. I think the fact it was such a landslide victory for Trump was surprising to many. I definitely didn't expect it to go the way it did. And, it's still pretty close all in all. Trump only had 50.4%. It's not a total landslide victory, but it is as landslide as you're going to get within a system like the US electoral system. And yeah, not only did Trump win, but he actually won every single swing state, which is something that is pretty much unheard of, at least in recent history, and basically guaranteed that no matter what, he was going to win. And just looking at the electoral map, it is such a red map. It feels unrealistically red, and honestly, I'm still not quite over the results, quite honestly. But enough about me. Let's get into what I actually wanted to talk about here, and that basically comes down to what exactly went wrong. And there are many things. The biggest, and I think the most obvious, is that Biden took too long to drop out. He spent at least a month too long, if not realistically towards 3 years too long, to actually decide for sure that he was dropping out. Especially when he was elected, he very much claimed to be a transitional figure. He claimed to be somebody who could allow the Democrats to move out of the position that they were in, to bring some new blood into the party and potentially some new policies, stuff like that. Just bring a new face to the party. He was supposed to be the last of his line, so to speak, in terms of that state of the party. And if he had stuck to that, if he had stuck to what his original statements sounded like, at least, even if he didn't mean it like that, when people were positive about him being, a transitional figure, a one-term president, I think he probably should have just stuck to it. He should have just stuck to that understanding and dropped out, as soon as he could. Because the fact that the Democrats didn't get a primary, and we just kind of got forced, and I say we, obviously I'm British, it doesn't directly affect me, it's just something that does somewhat matter to, me. I think the Democrats needed a primary. And sure, Kamala Harris may have then ended up winning the primary, and sure, it may have gone the exact same as it ended up going. But that's realistically what was needed for the party, is an actual primary where people get to see all the options, decide for sure who it is they want leading the party for this election, who they want to potentially be the new president of the United States. And yeah, the fact that the Republicans, who were never going to have anyone other than Trump be their, president-elect, it seems incredible that they still did have a primary. And sure, no one had a chance other than Trump in that, and Trump didn't even turn up for most of the debates. If memory serves, I think he may have not even turned up for any of them, but it seems insane that the primary was just ignored by the Democrats, and I think the blame for that is squarely on Biden. Biden has become a husk of the man he was even, a year ago, never mind 4 years ago when he was voted in. He really does struggle to speak right now, and I'm not trying to say, he's, declining in a way that has caused these issues. I don't necessarily think that's the facts. I don't necessarily think that's the truth of it all. But it must be said that he was not in any position to run again, and I think everyone around him kind of knew that, except for him. At the end of the day, it can't all be blamed on Biden. Biden is but one part of this, because it has to be said that the fact that the Democrats, once they had Harris, decided to push further right, try and bring over some of the right-wingers voting, and the fact that in general they lent into people like Cheney rather than people like Bernie, for example, as their, representatives, their surrogates, whatever, really does say a lot about the state of the Democratic Party. They would prefer to push away the left, to move further right, to try and maybe pull a few Republicans away from their party, than do what most people would assume is the smart decision, which is go for those left-wing ideologies. And I'm by no means saying that the Democrats need to be a fully left-wing party, just as, I wouldn't really want the Republicans to be a fully right-wing party, which they arguably have become, but that's beside the point. The fact that they pushed so hard into these, middle of the line or slightly right-wing, or even, in some cases, quite right-wing, but just anti-Trump personalities, politicians, and whoever else, really did push away a lot of the typical Democratic voter base. A lot of left-wing individuals that would typically vote Democrats regardless of who was running just decided not to vote in this case, because they were so pushed away by the party that they would typically be voting for. And it must be said, this does kind of reflect on some of our recent politics over in the UK, as this is kind of what Labour did to a lot of their supporters. And obviously, most recently, with the UK election, with Labour actually winning, that was down to the Conservatives, the Tories, just deciding that they wanted to push away everyone. For years they have. And the US is doing a very similar thing, but it's only the Democrats that seem to be pushing it as hard. Because, for the most part, it seems that the Republicans going further and further right-wing, further authoritarian, further nationalist as well, seems to be working for them. At the end of the day, regardless of all the very clearly, historically, Nazi rhetoric that the Republicans have spouted over this election cycle, they still won. And you can say, it's just people that, didn't like Kamala Harris. Maybe they're racist towards Kamala Harris or whatever else. But that doesn't explain the fact that it is such a wide margin. We are talking 40 or so electoral college votes going to Trump over Harris and every swing state. This doesn't happen because of racism, or not in the way that we're maybe talking about, but the biggest thing is many groups, and you could even argue this is racism, but many groups that, live in these swing states that could have actually pushed it for the Democrats were alienized. You look at the fact that the Democrats have still yet to actually condemn the actions of Israel. And I know that is a hot topic. I know that is something that can be controversial. I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts on that because I don't want to get too off topic. But the fact that by being so wishy-washy and kind of just going, full-throated on Israel, the Democrats pushed away many demographics that aren't with Israel. And that's not to say they are anti-Jewish, they're not anti-Semitic by any means. These are just people that don't like what Israel has done to Gaza, to Palestine. There are Palestinians in swing states that just didn't vote or voted for Trump because of how bad the Democrats have been this election cycle about these issues. At the end of the day, a Trump-run US, a Trump-run United States of America, is not going to be better for Gaza, not going to be better for Palestine than the Democrats would be. I don't necessarily think it's going to be too much worse, but it's not going to be better. And I think that's the important thing, is that people have been almost blinded by the fact that the Democrats, the party that is supposed to be, more positive in these regards, has just kind of ignored them or gone against them. I don't know. Trump has won. It's too late now to do anything. Kamala Harris herself has already made it public that she's going to completely and utterly just bend over and take it, essentially. And, it sounds childish to say, but it's kind of pathetic that after what the Republicans tried to pull last time when they lost, that the Democrats are going to just say, oh, well, I guess we lost, cool, bye. It's the exact same as what happened the first time Trump won. When Hillary lost and just kind of went, oh, well, I'm going back to my own planet, bye. That is exactly what's happening this time. The Democrats are just allowing wholesale the country to become neo-fascist, to become nationalist, to become a Nazi state, because they don't actually care. Or if they do care, they clearly don't know what to do about it. And, as I say, I'm not expecting, a January 6th, but done by Democrats. That would be insane and kind of ridiculous. But I just expect some more bite than what I've seen. And things can change. Things, definitely can change. But realistically, it's not going to. And real quickly, as just a final point, I just want to discuss a little bit about the independence that a lot of people are blaming on Kamala's loss. So obviously the major two were Jill Stein for the Green Party and Robert Kennedy, who was just plain independent, technically Republican, but kind of libertarian. Obviously we do have the actual Libertarian Party, which was Chase Oliver, and a few other candidates for other parties, but mainly I just want to focus on Jill and Robert, Stein and Kennedy, whatever you want to say, because they're the ones that most people are putting focus on. Both of them, individually, only got about 0.5% of the total votes, and Jill did get more. Green Party did actually win a little bit more. Neither got any electoral votes. It was purely the public voting for them. There was no electoral votes won at all for either of them, so you can't even blame it on that. Collectively, 1.3 million votes, it sounds like a lot, but that is nothing when Donald Trump got 75 million votes. Kamala Harris got 71 million votes. You're talking a small amount of extra votes if people didn't vote independent. So, I just want to make a point of, it's not the fault of Green Party supporters or people that decided to go for independent or libertarian or whatever else. It's not their fault that this happened. It's the Democrats' fault. And unfortunately, the US public now has to deal with the repercussions of those actions. The voting public has spoken and Trump has won. And unfortunately, that's all we can really say about it. Now we just have to wait until January 6th and see exactly what happens then. Because if it is, as Kamala has said, and it's a peaceful transfer of power, I don't see a very positive future for the US. Though, if it isn't a peaceful transfer of power, I also don't think it's going to be the best experience. I don't necessarily think it's going to go too well for anyone. But that is really all I have to say about it. But with that being said, I have not made a video in about 4 months, and yeah, I have just not been in the best place. If you are, for some reason, wanting more of my content, I do actually upload pretty much every other day to my gaming channel, which I will have in link in description if you are interested in that. It's very different content, but you know, if you're wanting just more from me for whatever reason, do check that out. Otherwise, you know, regardless of the content of this video, I don't think anyone liked the content of this video, but if you enjoyed me discussing it, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell if you never want to miss an upload. I will hopefully be uploading a little bit more in the future. I'm not going to promise anything, but, you know, maybe every once in a while I'll pop up with something to talk about. Otherwise, you can keep up with me on both Twitter, link in the description below, X, whatever, I don't care. Or also, I have Medium, I have a few other social medias. They're just all going to be linked in the description below. Check them out if you're interested. And, yeah, otherwise, it's going to be it from me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
It's been a long week. I feel like I could use a vacation.